Hey guys, welcome to the second episode of While We Wait Halo Infinite Edition. In this series, we're going to review one Halo game a month until Halo Infinite releases later this year. Here are the rules. We can't let nostalgia affect us, and we have to rate the game based on what our standards are today. So you might like some of these scores, and some of these scores might piss you off. Either way, let us know in the comments what you think about these games and whether or not they could compete with games being released today. So let's start the clock and let's quiet down just a little bit because Ryan is in a library and he's going to tell us what Halo 2 is about.
Master Chief continues his fight against the Covenant, the Flood, and now learns of another Halo ring. The objective here remains the same as in Halo 1, but this time we get a new perspective as we follow a Covenant elite named Thel 'Vadam, better known as the Arbiter. Throughout Halo 2, we see Master Chief being hailed as the hero he is. With the Arbiter, we see that he was branded a failure for the first Halo ring being destroyed, but he gets a chance to redeem himself by these beings called the Prophets. They task the Arbiter with hunting down the Heretics, which are Covenant turncoats, and bringing them to justice. However, the Master Chief kills one of these Prophets, leading to a new enemy taking over the Covenant, the Brutes. We then find Chief and Arbiter coming face to face. Arbiter tells the Gravemind that the Prophets want to eliminate all life in the galaxy by activating all of the Halo rings. The Gravemind sends Chief and Arbiter to Halo. Chief follows one of the Prophets back to Earth. The Arbiter ends up forming a friendship with Sergeant Johnson, and they defeat the Brute leader, only to see he's already activated the Halo ring.
So there's the synopsis of Halo 2. Now let's jump into our review. I hate my life.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the things we like. Eli, why don't you go ahead and start us off?
All right, well, the first thing I really liked about this game was that it really extended the universe of what Halo 1 was all about.
Yep.
It was a very interesting story, and it just kept growing on that. And it gave us so much to go off of that as well. You know, it gave us even a new character to play as to learn more about his species, which is the Arbiter. And you actually see like a huge conflict happening within the Covenant as well.
Yeah.
It's like almost a civil war going on there. And I also love the fact that, you know, they even made Master Chief more of a war hero than he already was in part 1. I just love that they kept on developing their characters as much as they could in this game. And also I love the fact that they actually added a few levels on Earth, which was just amazing. You know?
The new Mombasa map was actually probably one of my favorite maps in the campaign.
And it's still fun to go back and replay it.
But yeah, that's what I liked about it.
To me, what stuck out, even starting it off like today or like, you know, this year, is just the presentation. It just feels much more cinematic. It seems more intentional. Whereas Halo 1 was more like it's a story that felt like a mystery and an exploration type of game, and it felt more like an arcade. This one feels more like an action drama. You know, there's characters that represent each side, and they all have personal vendettas, and it's like Eli was saying, it really enriches a story, and it kind of like makes you connect with them and stuff, and it grounds the story more as well. So that's cool. The graphics also, I don't know how Bungie did it, but they made part 2 look so good on the same console.
Yeah, they did.
It's kind of crazy how much better it looks. Just like the face animations, which I pointed out, the first one that suffered, look better. They still look kind of rough, but they look a lot better. And the environments I thought looked really good, and they give you a wide variety of environments as well. I guess besides that, I mean, the AI was also really good. You know, they still do everything they did in part 1, but now they could drive. There's like scripted events like the Scarab, like walking around town. And, you know, there's like the Brutes and the Covenant and the Flood AI. And, you know, the Brutes are the new characters, and all the AIs just play together. It's just really good. I'm really impressed with what they were able to accomplish.
Yeah, just to add on to that too, bro, it's just that, like you mentioned, the scripted parts, that they actually showed some CGI.
Well, for me, you know, once again, I'm going to talk about the ambience that the soundtrack sets. I mean, it's perfect for every setting you're in. I mean, during the battle, the music keeps you focused and engaged. And even during just basic exploration, you know, you're just completely awestruck and amazed by the environment around you. And for them to pull that off 2 games in a row with the same composer, he's able to create that new feeling again and again. It's a lot of talent there.
And I feel like they kind of turned it up to 12, you know? Like there's that level where it's like the ancient ruins and like the guitar is just going like all out, dude.
Yeah.
And you're just playing, smiling like an idiot. It's really, really good.
It really is. And then secondly, for me, like a little attention to detail, but it's been massively overhauled, I guess you could say, is that the damage and destruction that goes into the vehicles and the enemies. Like if you're getting attacked by a ghost or a wraith and you shoot at like their left bumper, that left bumper is going to disappear.
Yeah.
And the same thing with like the flood. Like if you're shooting at a flood soldier and you're shooting at his limbs are going to fall off. And then what's really cool is like with the little mechanic is, you know how the flood can be reanimated by the little crawly bits. In this game, you could take a sword or a shotgun to a flood soldier's corpse and blow it up. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and just another mechanic that I also want to mention is you could steal other people's like vehicles. I thought that was super awesome that they added that.
Oh, that's right.
Really
Yeah.
came in handy.
It changes the way you play multiplayer and campaign altogether, and it just, like you were saying, Eli, it makes you feel more like a war veteran, you know, more like a badass that could do things that no one else can do.
Okay, with that being said, of course, we're gonna have some things that we don't like particularly about this game, and so let's start off with Fabian.
I think by today's standards, other games have figured out how to do the scaling a little better. In this game, it's very obvious that the way they handled it was you take more damage, the enemies take less damage, and the enemies give more damage. So to me, that's kind of like a lazy way to do it. Like I was playing the second level where you go into that city corridor and there's all those snipers like shooting at you. And I was playing on heroic. It wasn't even legendary. And dude, it was not fun. It was just... You know, and like I've played it before. Besides that, the gun handling to me just felt a little like it just felt not as good as the first one. The first one, you grabbed that pistol and it felt heavy. You felt like you were dealing damage. And this one, I think the first gun you get is like the BR, and it just feels like a BB gun. And the SMG also feels like a BB gun with more bullets. So
it does.
Yeah, true.
So I guess for me, all I have are some like glaring discrepancies in like the background artwork. I mean, most of the time it literally just looks like a cardboard cutout. Someone spray painted it and said, that's our backdrop. It's perfect. Let's go with it. And, you know, it's not exactly something that you really have to like go out of your way to look for either. Like a lot of it's just like in your face. Like that's a 2D rendering of what I think is a bush.
yeah. And back then they could get away with it because like the resolution was so low. But playing it today, man, you're right, Ryan. They're glaring. It's right there, and you're like, oh.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then another thing, like I guess this might have been like the point of this, but the new enemy and the brutes, I have to tell you, like they're irritating, and the AI is just sporadic. I mean, again, like I said, that's probably the point, but they're just bullet sponges. I mean, I've emptied an entire rocket launcher, an entire tank and shotgun into one of these things, only to have it like run up to me and like punt me across the room. They're
definitely not as fun as the elites are to fight. The elite is like the perfect enemy, man. They're so fun to fight, but the brutes, they're not fun.
Yeah, they don't even have shields, man.
They're just there. Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, well, for me, I'm just gonna say, based on what they actually advertised for this game, which was that trailer that they showed at E3, you know, it didn't really hold up to a lot of the promises they made within that trailer. You know, it felt within the trailer, it showed a better gun handling, everything you just mentioned, Fabian. It was going to be a lot better. That was a big thing for me. And besides that, also, I want to just piggyback off of Ryan really quick and say that the levels themselves, even though they were just, you know, simple, it was also incredibly easy to actually glitch out of them too. You know, and you can actually see all the, you know, wrongings of the whole level if you just take like one extra jump that you're not supposed to.
Yeah, and there are a lot of like invisible walls as well. It felt a lot more like thrown together than the first one.
Oh, really did.
Yeah, and the last thing I just want to say is just like, even though I mentioned that, you know, the story was way more complex than it was in the first one, I didn't like how they didn't actually put more attention to some of the more important details, like pretty much the prophets and the brutes. But yeah, that's about it.
All right, guys, now let's go ahead and review this. Eli, what'd you think?
All right, well, I'm just going to say that, you know, with everything that got improved from Halo 1, which was the story, the mechanics, the many mechanics that they added, I definitely say this is a huge improvement, and that's why, in my opinion, I would give this a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, and all things considered that we talked about, the things that we said could be improved, those things pale in comparison to the greatness about this game. Its story, its replayability, its characters. I would, by today's standards, I would still give this an 8 out of 10 because this game is just phenomenal.
Yeah. And I think, everything that you guys said as well, that you could play with a friend on a couch, and it's just so much fun to experience the story together. And after playing Halo 1, literally right before playing this, you can see the jump and all the effort that they made and all the, all the upgrades they made to the system and everything. So by today's standards, I would give it a solid 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
So that being said, altogether, our composite score for the channel is going to be a solid 8 out of 10 for Halo 2. Alright guys, now let us know what you think in the comments. Do you think this game holds up? Would you recommend it to a friend that's never played Halo before? Or does it just plain not hold up by today's standards? And if you guys like the video, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys around.